All right, welcome back to part two of the Why Not Us, Why Not Now podcast. X and KB coming at you as we always do. Thank you to everybody who's watching us on YouTube, or if you're listening to us on your podcast platforms, however you get your podcast. Finishing up the NFC West Division right here, and let's start off in California talking the San Francisco 49ers. And if they're healthy, KB, we know they could present some problems. But there's some huge emphasis on that whole thing if they're healthy. They added Mike Evans this offseason. We are not even a full week into training camp yet, or at least we are at this point. But when this happened earlier this week, not even a full weekend, and he is already having quad and hamstring issues. That alone right there tells me all I need to know. They've lost Ricky Pearsall for the season, unfortunately. George Kittle is recovering from a torn Achilles. They had to bring Deebo Samuel back in the building. I honestly think they missed a big opportunity when they did not sign Stephon Diggs, who signed with the Washington Commanders earlier today. I thought that he was somebody just talent-wise they should have considered adding to their wide receiver room. So now, right now, it looks like it's Brock Purdy, Christian McCaffrey, or bust, unless these guys on the depth chart emerge and become something that we haven't seen yet. But it's a very interesting situation out there. Let's just go ahead and get this part out of the way. That Super Bowl window is shut. It was shut anyway coming into the season. But it's locked, sealed, pull the blackout curtains over it. It's over. That window is shut. They missed their opportunity with that. They're going to have to do that with some other core group, unfortunately. And then they also have the Kyle Shanahan situation that's lingering. He got into a car crash a couple of weeks ago. Thank God he's all right. He's already said that it's his fault that this happened. Reportedly suffered a major concussion, broken ribs, a broken hand. And according to his friend, who is also an NFL insider, Chris Sims, the son of two-time Super Bowl champion quarterback with the New York Giants, Phil Sims, came this close to losing an eye. Thank goodness that did not happen. But it's been so much that's also came out about that situation with Kyle Shanahan saying, yeah, I had dropped my phone even though I wasn't using it. And like it, so much. Just first off, thank goodness he's all right. When I look at the coaching staff, they lost their defensive coordinator, Robert Saleh, and I think that is the biggest loss of them all, if I'm being honest. He is being replaced by good old Raheem. Good old Ra. You know who Ra is, KB. Big fan of Ra, or not. So when it comes to the Niners, just what's your early outlook for this team?
I don't know, bro. Like, when I look at the 49ers, I look at it like, a lot was made about them acquiring, the services of Mike Evans, but this is a different Mike Evans at this point in his career. Also, bringing back in Deebo Samuel, who is a different Deebo Samuel than, you had before he left. Then we also know about the Brandon Ayuk drama that's been going on, for a while now. And I think that there needs to be some type of resolution that happens, before the season starts, because it feels like it's just dragging on. But we know with, Christian McCaffrey's health being the issues at sometimes, I think that it's hard to really make a good assessment of what this team is. Losing Juwan Jennings also, it hurt. And so, it looks like you're running out of wide receiver group that doesn't necessarily wow me. Just your offensive core doesn't wow anyone. I don't think it strikes any fear. I know you went out and signed Christian Kirk to, be hopefully helping the slot, but it's just like it doesn't have that fear factor. Ricky Pearsall not being there, it definitely hurts you because I felt like that he was due for another big season. You still have George Kittle, who's still producing at a high clip, but I think that it's for at this point you're an aging offense, and when you flip it over to the defensive side of the ball, I don't know if necessarily. I feel like you drafted well. I do feel like that you made a few additions in the draft that were, going to be help you out overall. But I just feel like from in totality, I don't think that you did enough. Um, and I'm with you. I think that Super Bowl window shut. I do hope the best for, Coach Shanahan. I do hope that he is okay in the long run because we know how serious that was and how serious it could have been. Um, like you said, losing Robert Saleh on that defensive side of the ball is going to definitely make a big difference. I do think that, as much as Ra is heralded as defensive coach, I do think that, Robert Saleh had, that was a guy that, made his calling card on defense. And Ra has been, a head coach for the past couple of seasons where it wasn't, necessarily great in Atlanta. I think Robert Saleh had that defense competitive. He had them humming. I think you still led by your two mainstays and Nick Bosa and Fred Warner. Drake Greenlaw still on the team as well. But I do think it's something to be said about the fact that this has been pretty much an underwhelming offseason for me when it comes to the 49ers. I don't necessarily feel the fear factor that they once had. I don't feel that anymore because when you're oh, go ahead, X.
So I hear you when you say underwhelming offseason. You know the move that I honestly think quietly might be the move that fans should be the most excited about, but nobody's talking about? The trade they made with the Dallas Cowboys to get Osa Odigizua.
Yeah. Man, like I said, it's not necessarily and that is a very good point. I do think he'll come in and make an immediate impact, but I do think that it's one of those situations that this division is just so tough. You got the Super Bowl winners in your own division, and then you have a team that got significantly better. Like not a little bit, they got significantly better. We know about one team being the bottom feeder of the division, but to be honest, it's gonna be tough this year more than any other year. We know you have a team that features the Super Bowl champions, and then you have a team that features, the defensive player of the year and the MVP of last year. That is going to be tough to overcome no matter what. But
And it
let
might be
alone,
another former defensive player of the year on the way. We'll talk
and
about that in a bit.
very good point. So it's already hard to kind of see what the outlook of this team is going to be because I don't know if they make it out of that division unscathed anyways. I think that they're looking at an uphill battle more so than they've looked at any other year because teams got better. Teams gotten significantly better. Even with the loss of Kenneth Walker in Seattle, I still feel like that until it happens, they're gonna be above the 49ers until I see something that proves me otherwise. And so I look at the 49ers like it's going to be tough, man. I'm not necessarily sure that they're going to be able to even be a wild card team coming out of the NFC. That's how crazy things have gotten out there out west. But I'm not even sure if they're going to be able to make a wild card, to be honest.
And if they don't, I'm perfectly fine with that. Just for a personal reason, we don't have to sit there and watch them come out of anybody else's tunnel with that stupid ass boombox.
You want rocking with the boombox, bro?
No, not when you going out there and you getting your head busted like they were. No.
Well, hopefully they can, win a couple of games. I actually like the boombox, bro. Actually, and now you bring in Deebo Samuel, so it's coming back.
It didn't. Well, it didn't go anywhere in his absence.
It didn't go anywhere, but it's different when Deebo's there. Him and Trent Williams lead the brigade when it comes out of the locker room, and they doing their thing. You know how that was.
So here's the thing: I ain't got nothing really against the boombox, but I'm gonna say this: if you got that energy before the game, make sure you have it after the game, whether you win or you lose. That's all I'm saying.
I can't agree to that. I'm a sore loser, so I can't agree to that, bro. To be honest with you, I'm a sore loser, and I'm a abysmal winner. So if the boombox, I'm not gonna lie, when it comes down to it, that is one of the most unique traditions out there. When you're talking about NFL, we know about college traditions, but that is one of the most unique traditions out there. Them coming out with the boombox and then blasting Young Boy or whoever. It's definitely fun to look at sometimes. But like you said, ain't no fun losing, getting your head bashed in.
It was fun in 2021 when they did it for me. After that, I'm like, all right, man, this is old real quick. Especially if you're not going to be the team hoisting the trophy at the end of the year. That's all I'm saying. Despite everything we just said about the San Francisco 49ers, they're not going to finish in last place in this division. Because the worst team that I believe that there will be in the NFL this year also resides in that division. And that would be the abysmal Arizona Cardinals. Right now, their starting quarterback looks like it's going to be Jacoby Brissett. No disrespect to him, but that's not keeping defensive coordinators up at night. The wide receiving room, Marvin Harrison Jr., what we're already seeing out of training camp so far. What goes beyond Butterfingers? Because at this point, it's more than just that at this point. And I also believe it's something mental up there. It's not physical. He's got all the physical traits. It's mental at this point. Hopefully he can overcome that because this is unfortunate to see this. He was supposed to be a generational talent coming into the NFL. You got Jeremiah Love. That's something to be excited about. But gosh, man, it's shameful how Buda Baker's career has been absolutely wasted like this on this team. This is going to be the worst team in the NFL this year. They will be a part of the Tank for Arch Manning, Tank for Dante Moore sweepstakes. And just go ahead and look forward to 2027 Arizona Cardinals fans. I don't have anything else to say about anything that this team did this offseason.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at it, they're definitely before we even like we can go ahead and get that part out the way. They're going to be the worst team in this division, and like I said, they're going to be fighting to be the worst team in the league. I forgot to feel bad for my guy Tyler Algier because he went to get a featured role with the Cardinals to be the number one back, which is something that he's been looking to do since his first few years in the league before Bijan arrived. Not only is he possibly playing second fiddle to Jeremiah Love, he's also possibly playing second fiddle to James Conner as well. It is looking like one of those things where it's going to be Trey McBride, Michael Wilson, Marvin Harrison Jr., some young talent, but not going to win any games, like win any significant games. Like I said, no disrespect to Jacoby Brissett, but I just think that it's too much going on.
Cardinals fans have one thing to be excited about for 2026. Larry Fitzgerald is going into the Hall of Fame this weekend. That's what y'all have to be excited about. Nothing else beyond that point. The emergence of Jeremiah Love, I'll give you that. I'm not giving you anything else.
Yeah, I mean, what else there is there to really give them? I mean, you look at it like outside of the 49ers, like when I talk about it's I look at them opposite of the Las Vegas Raiders. We talked about them being a young team and being able to build and they're going to be competitive. I don't necessarily see them being that competitive. I really don't.
KB, I look at the Cardinals the way I look at the New York Jets. The only difference is Mike LaFleur just got there. And they're going to give him at least one more year to at least get his guys in the building, his quarterback, all that. Meanwhile, Aaron Glenn, there's basically a burning pitchfork on his butt on his way out of town. He's not going to be there beyond this season unless they shock the world and win games, which I just don't see happening.
Yeah.
But I'm sorry, Arizona Cardinals fans. There's no optimism for wins this year. But hey, if you just want to go just for fun, man, I bet those tickets going to be hella cheap.
Oh yeah, for sure. And don't be surprised if once you start seeing the wheels ultimately fall off the wagon. Like, don't be surprised if you see Carson Beck sooner rather than later. We know he's going to get some time in the Hall of Fame game, but at the worst, you might as well see what he can do because you're already not going to win games, and you still may not win games even with him out there. So I think that it's just important to let the young guy play because I don't see necessarily what your ceiling is like. What are you possibly looking at, a 4-win season possibly? I think that's like
you're being generous.
I probably am, and that it might be even a dog fight just to get those 4 wins, let alone any games. I don't necessarily see them going for an offer, but I think that they're gonna definitely not be as competitive as they need to be, especially in their own division. I think that everybody is significantly better than them. I think that they do have some talent on the offensive side of the ball, but that's exactly where I'm gonna end it. Shout out to Buda Baker, but I think that this is pretty much gonna, shout out to Buda Baker and also shout out to Will Johnson. But outside of some individual talent, I don't
So
necessarily
let's
see it.
let's have some fun with this, and let's look at their schedule, and let's decide how we think they're going to do, and that's going to help give us our predictions for their win-loss record.
Go ahead.
Chargers in LA,
Loss.
September 13th, loss. Seahawks at home, September 20th, loss. 49ers, September 27th, in Santa Clara, loss. New York Giants, October 4th, in New Jersey, loss. Lions in Arizona, October 11th, that's a loss.
Mm-hmm.
At LA for the Rams, October 18th, loss.
Super loss.
Broncos the very next week in Arizona, loss. Cowboys in Dallas, very next week, November 1st, loss. We're 0-4 so far, okay?
Yeah.
Seahawks in Seattle, very next week, November 8th, loss. Rams in Arizona, very next week, loss. Chiefs, November 22nd, in Kansas City, loss. Washington Commanders, we might have our first win.
Possibly.
Because this is in Arizona. And that is a possibly, a strong possibly. Not willing to say yes. Oh, Eagles coming into town very next week. Loss. Jets, Cardinals, December 20th. Now this has a chance to be one of the more interesting implication type of games for the season that people are not going to care about outside of these fan bases. This has a chance to be the battle of the two teams that are going to be playing for the right to lose to have the number 1 overall pick.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to say that the Jets going to find a way to do what the Jets do best, and they are going to find a way to win this game and mess up their chances to get the number 1 overall pick.
Yeah.
Then they got the Saints on December 27th in New Orleans. That's a loss.
Yeah.
Raiders, Cardinals, January 3rd. I'm going to say the Raiders will win that game. Mm-hmm. 49ers, Cardinals, January 10th. I don't know where the Niners will be at that point. It's in Arizona. But considering that I believe that they're going to be the worst team in the NFL and get the number 1 overall pick, I'm going to say a loss. So I gave you 1 win and 1 possibly.
Yeah. So at most, you're looking at a 2-win season.
Yeah.
As the outlook at the most.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, that's when you name it off like that. I mean, it's a possibility. I could see it. I could really see it. That Jets game might be, like I said, high stakes, and the winner is the ultimate loser.
It is going to be a high stakes stinker. That's exactly what it's going to be.
But see, here's the thing, though. Also, you may end up in a situation where you have 2 quarterbacks coming out like Dante Moore and Arch Manning, so it might not necessarily be the biggest consolation prize.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Maybe not based on the talent, but based on the Manning name and everything that comes with it. Yes, it is.
I'm not giving that Manning name crap. I get what you're saying, but as far as when you're talking about from a talent perspective, you may even when we're talking about the college football season, we're going to see a lot from Arch. We have to see a lot from Arch. We also got to see a lot from Dante Moore as well because, like I said, they both didn't go out the best. So when we're looking at it, those 2 guys are fighting for that number 1 spot as well because you're talking about being a team's next franchise quarterback, and being number 1 does mean something. It does. It still means something. As much as people try to downplay it, it still means something to be drafted number 1.
No, absolutely. So, yeah, Arizona Cardinals fans, hope y'all aren't looking for wins. But like I said, your tickets are probably going to be hella cheap. So go enjoy the games just to enjoy them. Because, I mean, it's still an NFL game at the end of the day. The product might not make you feel like you're watching an NFL game, but just go enjoy the games just to watch them. Just go in there with no expectations. And no, more than anything, like, let's just hope that more than anything, that the Cardinals and all of these teams that, they have a relatively healthy season. Now let's talk about some teams that we think are going to be winners. I'm going to start off with the Los Angeles Rams. And I'm going to start off with the big headline that came out Wednesday. Aaron Donald practiced with the Rams. I, I, I don't think anything else needs to be said right now in this very moment. We're going to touch on their big offseason moves that we've already touched on before, weeks prior to this. But Aaron Donald practiced with the Rams today. That is what Adam Schefter tweeted out. That tells me all I need to know. That man coming back.
And I think that is important to say. It's not that he just worked out with them. Like he's in pads. Like he's in pads. He's definitely looking to come back. But people, I keep seeing some people saying that they're not worried and that he's washed and over here. I said, even Aaron Donald at 70% of what he was is still better than the majority of the league. I don't think people understand what he was. He retired not because of limitations, is because he had no passion for it at the time. He said, I'm full. He said, I got everything I need. I got my defensive player of the year. I got everything that I could have wanted. I got the ring. I didn't need anything else. So, and the thing is, we talk about a lot of guys that retire early into their, not necessarily early, but retire in the prime of their career. And he was one of those guys that necessarily stayed in shape. He stayed in good shape. Necessarily, he may not necessarily be in the best football shape, but he always stayed in shape. We look at Aaron Donald as one of those guys that like he's a freak athlete. If we want to talk about guys that are just freak athletes, he's a freak athlete. Now, what that means for the Los Angeles Rams is they're going to feature not only one of the best offensive units, they're going to feature definitely one of the best defensive units. We're talking about a team that could feature a reigning defensive player of the year and a former defensive player of the year. One in the middle, one on the edge. And then you have all pro corner on the back end and Trent McDuffie. Not only that, you have one of the leaders in tackles and Nate Landman in the middle. I think that people are underestimating how scary this is going to be for a lot of opposing offenses that have to go against this. Not only for the guys that got to go against this in the league, just to think about your own division. This is going to be tough no matter what, because if he comes back, you just went from wow to this is terrifying. This is one of the worst possible outcomes that we could have possibly had. And we know that the idea has been flirted. The concept of having both of them on the team has flirted around. But if he suddenly has that passion to come back and play, which it seems like he does, because I don't just see a guy just doing that just for the hell of it. I think that this is going to be one of those situations where this is unprecedented, to be honest. We ain't seen nothing like this. A guy who just set the record for sacks in the season, being alongside a guy who's mentioned as one of the greatest defensive players at his position and just the defensive players in general. You're not gonna see this too many times, and I think this is something that they're gonna be excited to see, but it's gonna be scary to go against.
So apologies to our audience out there if I said practice. What I meant to say was worked out. He worked out for the Rams today. He did not exactly practice for the team today. But to your point, when you speak the name Aaron Donald, you speak of names like Warren Sapp, Reggie White, Deacon Jones, Mean Joe Green. These are some of the most vaunted NFL defensive linemen in the history of the game that I just rattled out of my mouth right there. That's what you speak of when you think of Aaron Donald. And like you said, if he's just 70%, hell, if he's 60% of it, Myles Garrett can be what Aaron Donald was in 2021, and Aaron Donald can be what Von Miller was for the Rams in 2021. And everybody still got hell on their hands to deal with.
I think that what it is how do you game plan for that? Like, what do you do? Because, like I said, what made Aaron Donald so scary is he's doing this as like we know it's easier, even though Myles Garrett gets high. He has as far as sack numbers, he has high sack numbers year in and year out. But I think it's even scarier when you're talking about an interior lineman that's getting those numbers. A guy that's even when he's just pressuring the quarterback, he's getting triple teamed, let alone double team. He's getting triple teamed, which frees up other opportunity for guys on that defensive line. So I know it's a lot of his teammates, former teammates, that will welcome him with open arms because they know that's an opportunity for them. Also, it's an opportunity for, necessarily you are, think about it from a back end perspective when you're talking about the corners, safeties. It's kind of like if I know I got those two guys down there, I know I ain't got to cover too long. I know that ball's coming out and it's going to more than likely not be as in the area or the spots that that quarterback necessarily wants because he's just trying to get the ball out. So we're talking about guys that he's going to affect not just on the defensive line, but the entire defensive unit. And I know it's kind of like we know the success he's had with Sean McVay. We know how they went all in with getting, Matthew Stafford in that. At this point, I look at that trade as being one of those trades that, while Detroit has not necessarily won a Super Bowl, I feel like that both teams got what they wanted out of that trade. You got a Super Bowl, Matthew Stafford for the first time in his career coming off of a Super Bowl. Coming off of an MVP, regular season MVP, where he was the most consistent quarterback all year long. I think that you look at the Rams, I don't know what the hell you could do with them. I don't, because it was already hard enough dealing with Matthew Stafford in that loaded offense. That
You pray. That's what you do. You pray.
You have to, because it's looking at it. When have we seen a situation where we're seeing a division winner in the Seattle Seahawks, a Super Bowl champion in the Seattle Seahawks, not even being looked at coming out of that Super Bowl run as being the second best team in their own division? Because that's what it's looking like right now. That they are coming into a situation where a team just went all in. And we've seen the Rams go all in. We've seen them go with Odell Beckham. We've seen them have Von Miller. We've seen them load up for a championship run, and they got it. And this looks vaguely familiar if you're asking me, but even on a more extreme level, because you look at everything that they're doing, they're trying to maximize Matthew Stafford's last possible run, which I am all for it. I think that if you had even, what would have been the sweetener for that? I understand the Ty Simpson thing. I do, from a perspective of you need to get the heir to the throne. You got Makai Lemon though. We talking a very, very scary situation. Now you still have, like I said, a capable pass catcher in Tyler Higbee. We still have guys like Puka Nacua, Devontae Adams, Tutu Atwell. Oh, I'm sorry. Is Tutu Atwell now with?
Tutu Atwell is not with the Rams anymore.
He's with the Miami Dolphins, I believe. Yeah. Yes. Okay. I'm sorry. I apologize. But you still have capable pass catchers on that team, though.
Yeah, and there's still a quiet move that I honestly think they could go in on if any team could do it during the season. It's not going to happen now, but there is a quiet move that they could make during the season. And if they were to make it, they would know how to utilize it. Tyreek Hill is still a free agent.
He is. And I could see him possibly, at this point in his career, he's lost a step coming off a gruesome injury. I can see it. I really could. I can see him waiting a while and then possibly reaching out to those teams. And I think that Tyreek Hill doesn't even have to be the same player that he once was. If you're talking about a 1-year rental just for a Super Bowl run, that would be the one. That would honestly be the one. So yeah, I'm looking at the outlook for them. It's Super Bowl or bust. No other question, no doubt about it. It's Super Bowl or bust. And like I said, that Aaron Donald move could change the trajectory of the season completely.
Do you think CJ Daniels has a chance to do anything with this team this season, considering that he was drafted so late, but he was such an impact player for the Miami Hurricanes?
In spots. I'll say that in spots. I do think that he has a chance to get it in spots. I don't necessarily know if it'll be like a consistent thing that is like warrant like uh warrant like a defensive rookie of the year or anything like that. But I do feel like that he has a chance to make an impact in spots. And as long as that goes down, I think that the Rams post Aaron Donald, post Myles Garrett, they're gonna be in a good situation.
Well, a team that is in a good situation too, I would say the reigning Super Bowl champion Seattle Seahawks. They lost some key pieces this offseason, but they were able to retain a lot too. And a lot of these guys are young. They're not paying a lot of them yet. Jackson Smith and Jigba rightfully got his money this offseason. Sam Darnold is now a Super Bowl champion. The thing that I'm the most curious about is, does losing Clint Kubiak hurt this offense, or will they be able to just get out there and just keep it flowing like they did last year?
I think it's gonna look different. I'll say that. I think that when you're talking about losing a brilliant offensive mind, you can't just replace him with just anybody. I think that losing Clint Kubiak, also losing Kenneth Walker, I think that those two things, I think that bringing back Rashid Shaheed was a big deal. I think that that helps when you're talking about giving Sam Darnold his weapons. I think JSN, he deserved his money. Offensive Player of the Year from the wide receiver position, I think that was a well deserved. But I think it's going to look different, and it's going to be an adjustment because this is going to be yet another offensive coordinator that Sam Darnold's going to have to get used to. But I do think that Sam Darnold has this is going to be him riding the high because we saw it in Minnesota, we saw it in Seattle. We see that he has progressed later into his career as opposed to earlier in his career where a lot of people wrote him off because of the torment that he had to go experience with the New York Jets. I think that now he's a much smarter quarterback. I think he's being able to read defenses at a higher clip. He's playing the quarterback position at a higher level than he's ever played before. Coming off of a Super Bowl win, he is a Super Bowl winning quarterback now. I think that Sam Darnold's ready to silence all the doubters. The only thing I think that Sam Darnold needs to do this year that I would love to see from him is limit the turnovers. If he can limit those turnovers, because he did have a high interceptions, but that was also because he was taking a lot of risk as well. If he can limit those turnovers, I think that Sam Darnold could be a dark horse MVP candidate. To be honest with you, he has that type of capability just based off of what I've seen the last couple of years. He's shown that he can go from a system and go to another system and be able to thrive in that system. I think that Clint Kubiak definitely helped ease the transition from Minnesota to Seattle, but I think that he's become a different quarterback than he was earlier in his career. So things are going to look different from the offensive side of the ball in Seattle, but I think that it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be a big drop off. It's just going to look a little bit different without an offensive genius like Kubiak in the building.
I also think one of the quiet, sneaky moves that nobody's really looking at, drafting Jadarian Price, the running back out of Notre Dame, especially as Charbonnet continues to work his way back from the torn ACL. And Seattle's one of those places, they know how to get running backs. They know how to get the right guys in that position. Whether they draft them, whether they trade for, they know how to get those guys.
Yeah, they do. And the thing is, they also know how to develop them. I think that's the important portion of the whole thing as well. And I think that's it. Like he'll have a lot of opportunity coming in because, like I said, with the injury to Charbonnet, who knows when he comes back and what version of him comes back. I think that having, a guy that you can be able to give the ball to and those goal line situations. And I think it's going to look even different when you're talking about the backfield as well, because you lose a guy like Kenneth Walker, it is going to be hard to replace him. Now, I understand it because the money that you were willing to, that you weren't willing to shell out to him, it was hard to keep him in the building because it was so many suitors, and it was like you knew you had to pay JSN his money. It was going to be hard either way it goes, but it is going to be a hard thing to replace his output because a guy who was consistent, who didn't fumble the ball much, he was very versatile in the passing game as well. So it's going to be something that it's going to be a lot of transition, especially on the offensive side of the ball. Also, losing Kobe Bryant on the defensive side of the ball to the Chicago Bears, I think that is going to be a big thing as well. And I think that that's an underrated move that a lot of people aren't talking about, but I think that his leadership on that back end was also something that's going to be missed.
Hopefully he's all right too, by the way. He was carted off the field a couple of days ago at training camp.
Yeah, absolutely. Prayers up to him.
All right, man. So it's time to predict the NFC West here. We already said the Cardinals are finishing in 4th place. Worst team in the division, worst team in the NFL. I got the 49ers finishing in 3rd place. I'm going to say the Seahawks finish in 2nd place, but they'll be a wild card team. So obviously I got the Rams winning this division. At this point, barring injuries or anything unforeseen, I don't see how they're not the best team in the NFL this year record-wise.
Yeah, and that ain't no hot take at all. Like when you look at their talent assembled from top to bottom, they are looking not only to be the best team in their division, they're looking to be the best team in the NFL. I think that they've made it to the point where they've assembled this talent. They decided that they're going to go all in. They, when you look at how quickly that they're able to go from a period of where they're close but not close enough to where they want to get to, I think that the smartest thing that they've decided to do was maximize the last few years of Matthew Stafford. So I'm going to go from top to bottom instead. I think that the Rams are going to finish number 1 in the division. I think that they're going to also have the number 1 record in the NFC. I think that that's just the trajectory, I think, for this team. I'm going to look at Seattle. I'm going to give them their respect. They're going to be a wild card team, but I think that they're going to be one of those wild card teams that could be in the wild card with 10 wins possibly. So that's my trajectory for the Seahawks. I think it's going to be a lot of transition that's going to happen on that offensive side of the ball. It's going to take a minute to start gelling together, but I think that they have enough veteran leadership that they're going to be okay. 3rd place also is going to be the San Francisco 49ers. I think that while they have some veteran leadership, I think that their counterparts in that division are just that much better. And then when you're talking about the Cardinals, they're going to be one of those teams that's going to be fighting for number one draft pick, like you said. I think that they're not playing for much this season. I think this is going to be just a season where they're going to be going through a lot of lows and not very many highs. I think that they're looking already to, the Dante Moores and the Arch Mannings of the world as possibly being the next quarterback of this team, because right now, no disrespect to Jacoby Brissett, but there ain't really much to be looking forward to when you're talking about a quarterback room that features Jacoby Brissett, Carson Beck. I mean, you're just going into battle with what you got at this point.
And I'm going to make it sting even more for Arizona Cardinals fans. Y'all going to watch Kyler Murray go to Minnesota and win Comeback Player of the Year.
That's crazy because I thought about that, and that's actually not an outrageous thing to say because, like I said, we saw this is going to be the best. Now, Kyler Murray played with a good DeAndre Hopkins, but this might even be a better version of that. You know what I'm saying, with Justin Jefferson. And Kevin O'Connell, I know that he's going to be able to have that offense humming. I think he just needed the quarterback. I think that you saw Justin Jefferson's drop-off being because he didn't have consistent quarterback play. I think now that he has a guy in Kyler Murray could be auditioning for his next team, or he could be auditioning to be, the quarterback for the Minnesota Vikings beyond this year. So it's a lot of things on the table because I don't think that JJ McCarthy is the answer in Minnesota. So it is a lot of things that's going to happen that's going to come out of that situation. So yeah, it's going to sting because I don't think Kyler Murray had the personnel to win in Arizona. I think that outside of that 1 year where they set the NFL on fire, but then didn't do much in the playoffs. I think that this is gonna sting because we've seen players go off to different situations and be very successful. So I'm not mad at that take about comeback player of the year because I can honestly see it.
All right, y'all. That's gonna wrap up another edition of the Why Not Us, Why Not Now podcast. When we come back to you next, it's gonna be time to break down everything we're seeing in training camp, getting ready for that first full week of preseason, and also breaking down the highlights from the Hall of Fame. It's a really, really good class going in this year. I'm looking forward to the speeches from everybody involved. But if I had to take a guess, I think Drew Brees is going to have the number one speech. And if it's not him, I think it's going to be Roger Craig, a guy that's been waiting decades for this moment.
Yeah, Roger Craig, definitely well deserved. And, been waiting on his opportunity. I think there's going to be a lot of emotion that's going to pour out of him when it is finally time for him to give his speech. Drew Brees, like I said, we know about Drew Brees. We've known about Drew Brees all our lives. We know about the type of competitor he was, the quarterback he was. Honestly, made the Saints relevant. We knew where they were before him, and we knew where they've been since him. So, honestly, looking forward to it. Looking forward to the well-deserved congratulations and honor that both of them deserve, and just congratulations to the whole Hall of Fame class.
I do want to ask this though, and then we will end the show. When it comes down to Drew Brees and his time in New Orleans, because for years the argument was: is it Brady? Is it Belichick in New England? Who is it? Tom goes to Tampa Bay, wins one without them, puts an end to that entire thing, pretty much. Was it Breeze more so? Was it Peyton more so? Or was it more so of an equal partnership of everything just coming together at the right time? And I say that because remember, if a Miami Dolphins doctor clears Drew Brees, he's Nick Saban's quarterback. And Nick Saban doesn't go to the University of Alabama more than likely.
I look at it like this. I think Brady showed that he can win without Belichick, but I still think it was more of an equal partnership than people are giving credit for because I do think Belichick helped out Brady's career just as much as Brady helped out Belichick's career. And I'm gonna say the same thing for him and Sean Payton. I think they mutually benefited each other's career. I know that Sean Payton has had his success once he got to Denver, but he also had his struggles once he got to Denver with Russell Wilson. And we saw what Sean Payton's career trajectory was once it was no Drew Brees to kind of be that leader. Because having a Drew Brees, having a Tom Brady is like having another coach on the field. And we see the value that it is in having that. So that's why I say like they are synonymous with each other because they won together just the same way we talk about Kobe and Phil Jackson, Kobe, Shaq, and Phil Jackson, or MJ, Scottie Pippen and Phil Jackson. They helped each other out. So we can't just say like it was, oh, well, Drew Brees made Sean Payton. Now, Drew Brees, one thing that he did do, he inspired New Orleans and gave them hope. That is one thing I can say because prior to him arriving in New Orleans, they were bottom feeders. They had like I don't think that people remember Saints fans were going to the games wearing bags over their heads. Like that was a thing.
Yeah, that whole thing when y'all say ain'ts, that's not just y'all being funny. And I
no,
don't think New Age fans realize that.
no. The Saints were not a historically good franchise at that point. They were not. They were not a winning franchise. When you talked about the NFC South, the Panthers had success. The Bucks had success. Prior to that Super Bowl that the Saints eventually won against the Colts, there was nothing. There was nothing there. There was nothing there that they had to really hang their hat on. And that's not being funny. That X, am I telling a lie? Like that was the truth.
No, no, like that ain'ts thing was a real thing.
You
Like,
had even Lil Wayne came out at one point and said people in New Orleans at one point weren't even Saints fans. They were Packer fans, Cowboy fans. They were fans of other cities' teams because there was nothing for them to be proud about when it came to Drew Brees instilled pride back into the city of New Orleans to be proud of the team that they had representing their team, their city. Like it's a thing that like the who that chants got even louder once Drew Brees got there and he started, we remember those Saints teams. The
I gotta add to that though. He did all that, and it all happened during a time they needed it more than ever.
Yeah, because it wasn't just football. It was about reinvigorating the city that lost everything. So you talk about perfect person, perfect timing, perfect city for it to happen in because at that time of Katrina, they lost all hope. They lost everything. So many people died in that catastrophic storm that, you can't look at it any other way. It was a story of inspiration. I'll say that it was a story of inspiration, and he was spearheading the whole thing. Like I said, that's why I gotta say that it was a synonymous relationship, a mutually beneficial relationship between him and Sean Payton.
Congratulations to Drew Brees, all of the Hall of Famers. Looking forward to the weekend, the speech, you guys wearing your gold jackets. We'll be back here next week to talk about it. But for KB, I'm X, and we're saying peace.
Peace.